What up, everybody? Cole the Feeble here. We're starting our first podcast back. It's going to be Boomer Bonfire Podcast. It's where me and my boys, we're old as fuck now, and we talk about topics that we think about on our day-to-daily that we like to rage and complain about. So, going to be a lot of complaining, going to be a lot of factual information, though, that you all will be interested in. So, let me introduce our guys. Go ahead, introduce yourselves, boys.
I'm Haru, what's up? A nerd, no life.
Yeah, and I'm Daydream. You know, I'm the young one of the group. Not technically a boomer yet, unlike these two.
Shut up.
Yeah, these boys, we've been together for quite a long time. We share quite a lot of memories, and we disagree and agree to a lot of things. So, first topic on the agenda that we're going to be talking about today is the technology drought. We have noticed over time, because we like to build gaming PCs, that there is absolutely fuck all for parts out there, especially video cards. My opinion is that we won't see any video cards for quite a little bit of time, probably not until next year. So you all out there, if you end up having a situation where your video card goes down, be prepared to basically pay for one that's equivalent to building a PC.
Fuck that.
Yeah, garbage.
It's really tragic, honestly. Not only has it become because of the scalpers, but then there's the chip shortage that's pretty much taken out a lot of things. That's been the hardest part for finding anything to me. I mean, everything's gone up in price. The other day I saw fucking dishwashers are going up and out of stock. So,
Yeah, did you see where car manufacturers are like having a hard time making cars because they can't get chips?
Yep. It is definitely going to turn into something of a pandemic, I think, in its own way. That we're going to see a lot of people scalping. You're going to even see retailers starting to scalp and they start getting things back in stock. NVIDIA's already said that they're raising the prices of the cards when they get them back in stock. They've already said that. The cat has been essentially let out of the bag. They know people are willing to pay these prices, so they're just going to get the prices at the front door. So it's looking really rough. I don't even know, honestly, by the time it's over, if it's going to be even remotely worth for some people to build a custom PC. It's a little scary, honestly, as to what the direction of everything's going to go. What are your thoughts, guys?
I mean, eventually, it's not going to be feasible to mine with the current cards that are out right now, because the way mining works is there's a DAG file, and if that DAG file cannot fit within the memory of the video card, then you can't mine. So, like, video cards with more memory is more desirable, because you can't mine with the ones that are like 8 gigs, or you can now, but eventually you won't be able to. So that's pretty much like all the NVIDIA cards.
I know they played around with the idea of possibly making a card specifically for farming, but I think a lot of the coin farming is going to, except for maybe Bitcoin. I know Ethereum talk about going away from it, like it's not going to be the way you farm.
Yeah.
But we shall see. What do you think, Daydream?
Well, I think a lot of people, even us, we're just kind of overreacting, because a lot of the shortage right now is due to Corona in China. Like, their manufacturing places, it's just limited how many workers that they can have at these places. So, like, I'm sure, like, yeah, prices will probably still raise, but I don't think they're going to raise as much as what these scalpers are selling cards for.
I don't think it'll be as significant as that. No, I have to agree with that. But right before the office change for the presidential, I do know there was a bill that was passed that actually ups the amount of taxes that come from shipping stuff from China to us. So that's probably going to have a little bit of an impact on it.
There's one for worldwide too, and that one fucked me over, because you used to be able to import a game from, Japan for like $10, and now it's like 40.
Yep. So that's going to have a significant impact over the next few years on how you go about building a PC. It's basically if you can't get it from here, it's going to cost you a lot. So
It's like stupid. And
yeah,
now if your card like dies, I feel so sorry for you because you're probably not going to get a video card for like
yep.
a year at least.
Yep, you're pretty much dead in the water with onboard graphics, or just, clench that asshole and just open up that bank account, because
I seriously doubt anyone has a majority of people have the amount of money that you're going to need to buy like a replacement.
yeah, a feasible replacement that is not really a downgrade. Like, if you're willing to buy a video card, you got to be willing to shell out some money. I'm actually predicting that prices go crazy. I watched the other day on eBay a 3080 go for $2,600. So I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't get up to $4,000 by holidays.
My card's ancient in terms of like video cards, and it's still like $1,000.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, mine too. I mean, my old 1070, I could sell it for like $500-600 now, which is absolutely
Don't you
insane.
talk, Mister has a 3070 and a 5600X.
How the fuck did you get that?
I bought a custom built PC, dude. Like, I didn't build this thing. I paid $2,000 for it. It's got a 5600X in it and a 3070.
With a terrible motherboard and PCU.
Yeah, I mean, I made sacrifices to get the card
PSU.
and the
Yeah,
CPU.
there's a
but-
card. I guess the rest of it
Yeah.
excuse me, don't matter.
Yeah, but technically, I could pull a card out of this and pay for the computer that I bought if I really had to.
True,
So,
too.
so that's how bad it is right now. So essentially, for pricing as it is right now, it was a pretty good deal. But anyway, like I feel that everything's at that place though. Like PS5s are going for close to $1,000. Xbox is the same. Xbox Series X's, they're the same. Everything is getting inflated to the point where it's kind of scary as to how the direction of way things are purchased, even online, are going to go. I've heard of a
Console thing. It makes sense because they're using, the same chips that the video cards are using.
yeah.
AMD chips.
Yeah, I know that some people are able to get them locally, especially if you live in big cities. You have a better chance of getting like a video card or a gaming system for retail if you live in a big city, because a lot of those like Best Buys and whatnot there they get sometimes better stock than, say, where we live in a very kind of rural area. They're not going to get the stock that a bigger city is going to get. So you have a better option if you live in a bigger city, but for people that live a little rural, it's very difficult. It's absolutely insane. You pretty much have to buy online.
I
So,
wish we had a micro center here or something.
yeah.
Anything would be nice. Even if it was like, say,
In
in,
Ch-
Charleston or
Yeah.
Huntington,
Yeah.
it would be amazing.
Yeah.
So some of those sales and stuff they have, it'd be 100% worth to make that drive up there.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, it would be a no-brainer for anybody. They would just come to that place every time they needed parts. It's a no-brainer. I honestly, but again, because of how our state has worked over time, I don't foresee that for a while. We are always like 5 to 10 years behind the technological curve. So,
We're always focused on coal.
yes. Gotta get those coal mines working, boys. It's very tragic. It's really sad. I wish that, over time we could be a little bit more progressive with how we do things. But a lot of states struggle with that, honestly. There's quite a few states that are in the same boat as us, essentially, with that.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of easily leads into my next topic, the big fiasco and tragedy of the year that we all kind of were. I kind of wasn't surprised, but it did catch a lot of people off guard. Was the failure of Cyberpunk 2077? It is probably a big letdown for a lot of people in terms of how long that they had to prepare to make that game. How long they've been in the works of doing it. There was a lot of speculation that it was the marketing team at the company that was putting so much pressure on the developers, and the developers were telling them that it wasn't ready, but they really wanted to push sales before the new console came out. They wanted it to be an on-release for the PS5. So that might have came into factor. That might have been a little bit at play. I honestly think that it was just a heavily committed game that they had so many ideas and directions that they were going that they couldn't focus on the task at hand to actually complete the game itself. So we ended up with like a 40% finished game at the end that they've slowly been rolling patches out. I'm sorry patches. Please forgive us patches. Like, that's what they've been doing over the course of the past few months since the game released. But I don't know if they'll ever be able to recover their reputation at this point. Like, it's been, I don't really know what they're going to do moving forward.
Honestly, I think the game was just like way too overhyped, and people just had like way too many expectations for it.
Yep.
Yeah, which I don't even understand why, because like you can look at the trailers and everything and like the gameplay, and it never looked like that amazing.
Yeah, it just looked like a good game, but
Yeah.
people were expecting like the second coming of Jesus or something with it.
Well, it's because it's like from the same people that made The Witcher 3, and like that game, I thought that game wasn't very good, but that's a different story topic. But it's because
okay.
of that.
I don't think it was a bad game, but I didn't like it myself either. But yeah,
I like The Witcher story. Okay, that's about as far as I'll go with it. I like the story.
Everything was great. It's just like the gameplay just did not connect with me at all.
No, it didn't connect with me either. It was okay, but you really played that game for the story and all the different things that you could do. I mean, it was a little edgy for its time. The whole storyline and how things progressed and what you could do in it. It was a little edgy, but that's basically...
Definitely couldn't do that. It couldn't release that game in modern times, even if that was just a couple years ago.
Yeah, no, you couldn't. Although I've heard some graphic things are on Cyberpunk, way more graphic than Witcher was. There's a lot of weird shit you can do in that game. Like, there's...
I played like 30 minutes of Cyberpunk, and it's not as bad as people were saying, but a lot of the complaints were like people from console, so I don't know.
Yeah, console was where the problems were mainly at.
Yeah, like they released a game that's so like graphically intensive that even the new consoles kind of struggle to play it. And then they're trying to like push it to 4K too. Like, bro, PCs legitimately with this series of graphics cards that nobody can buy just got to the point where we can play like 4K,
like ray tracing and shit. Yeah,
at good frame rates. Not even ray tracing, just 4K in general. Like,
yeah.
Before this, if you didn't have like the 2080 Ti, you weren't playing 4K. Now you could do it with like a 3060.
Yeah,
but ray tracing is hard, like in any resolution at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And AMD's behind on that, so if you're a fan of AMD, you're gonna wait a while for ray tracing to be playable.
Yeah, and that's another thing. AMD cards just are not really going to be up to par compared.
Well, at the moment, they're actually like throwing punches with NVIDIA, but the thing is that NVIDIA just has like way more features that work.
I agree.
Moment. So like they got the I forgot what it was called, DSL or something like that.
DLSS.
Yeah, that where it like blows up the resolution, like it somehow does some scaling magic.
Yeah, it's really nice,
good apparently.
Actually.
Yeah, I'm not a big expert on the AMD cards as much as the NVIDIA, but I do know from experience of owning an AMD card. I don't know if it was the particular model that I own, but the drivers especially are not as good compared to NVIDIA's.
Yeah,
how they roll out
on Windows side.
Yeah, they don't roll out drivers as well as NVIDIA does. I can remember vividly so many times my computer would crash trying to install new drivers and whatnot. And compared to NVIDIA, if there's a new one out, I just roll the Express install and it just goes and it's completely smooth.
I will say, if you like to tinker, AMD is like way better to go because AMD has like their own like open source drivers and they support them, so you can do like really cool stuff. They work really good on Hackintoshes. They work amazingly on Linux, or for the most part.
Obsolete technology that nobody uses.
Well, that's a lot of the Linux users. They use like really old stuff.
Yeah.
I personally really like Linux. I do.
Well, I'm using it right now.
Yeah, it's just missing some features for me that I can't get with Windows, and it's also not supported a lot with the majority of games that I would try to play. Like a lot of the indie games don't really support it yet. It hasn't.
So right now, there's more games that work than don't. So pretty much everything on Steam will work on Linux, even if it's Windows only.
Interesting. You don't need like a Windows image on it or some
No.
form.
It's literally you install Steam and you click install.
Interesting. I did not know
Yeah,
that.
Apparently, Linux has came a long way since the
Yeah,
last
it's
time I
come-
used it.
Leap and bounds ahead, like what it used to be.
Because I can remember vividly, like, and again, technology progresses fairly quickly, but the last time I used it was like 5-6 years ago, and you couldn't do shit. Like, you couldn't play anything. There were like 3 games that you could play, and that was about it.
Whenever, like, the last time I used it, I had to go into, like, I don't know what it's called, the kernel.
Yep, it's called the kernel.
Type in commands to download my GPU drivers. I was
Yep.
like, what, why?
Yep.
Oh no! Using the terminal, like in terminal mode,
Oh, yeah.
or using the boot like grub menus.
I don't know what it's like the same thing as command prompt in Windows.
Yeah, okay. You use in terminal mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, why? Why do I have to do this? But apparently
I'm
now
not sure
you don't
what
have
you
to
was
do
doing
that.
there, but
That's how I had to install my drivers, man. Like, you couldn't just
Oh, yeah.
install them anywhere.
that's another reason why you don't go NVIDIA when you do Linux. There's just a lot of headache, random shit that you got to do.
Yeah, but again, I think like that's the major issues that Cyberpunk had was just overhyped, marketing incorrectly. They marketed as it was going to like revolutionize gaming, which I guess because, you know, the hype train for The Witcher was just so hard that they wanted to push with that momentum and say, well, we made The Witcher 3 and you guys thought that was fucking amazing. Wait till you get a load of this. So it really,
Pretty hyped for it.
yeah, everybody was. I mean, I don't know one person that wasn't, but it's been in development. It's been in development for like what, 10 years? Like
Something like that.
Yeah.
it's been in development over like the
Seen it at, like E3 a long time ago.
it's been in development for like over the course of like 3 consoles if you count the PS5. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was never that hyped for it, though. Like I said earlier, like watching the gameplay and like what the game was actually about, it looks just like a first-person Grand Theft Auto to me.
honestly, just thought it would look like a kind of like an Elder Scrolls game in a very futuristic world.
Yeah, kind of like Fallout, except
Yeah.
for in futuristic. Yeah, see, I didn't like Fallout. I liked Elder Scrolls games, but just
I feel the
RP.
same way.
Yeah.
I like Fallout myself, but I enjoyed Fallout. I enjoyed
I didn't
about
beat Fallout 3, but I beat Fallout 4,
yeah.
and it wasn't a bad game or anything. I just prefer Elder Scrolls.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, Elder Scrolls is fantastic. Which is another random topic that I didn't think about. The joining of Microsoft with
Oh,
Bethesda.
don't get me started on that.
The joining of Microsoft with Bethesda was
Very-
actually a huge announcement. Like, it's gonna change a lot of shit. Like,
If that game doesn't come to Steam, it's gonna piss me off.
I think just use the Windows Store.
it's gonna be part of the Battle Pass or whatever. Not the Battle Pass, but the Game Pass. The Game Pass. Any game that Bethesda has immediately went to the Game Pass that they have. I know a lot of people were talking about it. Doom Eternal was on there as soon as the announcement happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think that they got id Software,
but again, Microsoft is trying to play with Sony. They're trying to play in the same court with exclusives. They want those exclusives. They want everything to be a Microsoft exclusive that Bethesda has.
all Microsoft had was Gears and Halo.
Yeah, that's it. That's all they had, and they were dying. They were dying in the water. Like they were struggling to keep up with Sony because Sony has so much shit right now that is so good for their exclusives.
I mean, Nintendo has like all kinds of games now.
Nintendo's gonna kill it. Nintendo's just gonna keep killing it. Like they're just gonna destroy it. They're still since the Switches came out, they're still top selling console. Still,
I mean, it's the console I want. Get one.
Like every console. I know so many people. So many people that aren't even gamers that own a Switch. It's like, hey, you have a Switch? Yeah, man. Yeah. They don't even play video games. Like they just have it because either their kids want it or it has some game on it that kind of is like a tale to their old, like younger days. Like any of the Mario games are great. Any of the games that they've made really are great that are exclusives for it. Smash, the new Smash is fantastic.
Oh god, dude, the fans of that game are so toxic.
Oh, where I sent Randall a clip the other night, or not a clip, but a video the other night of people raging on that game. That community, the fighting community, is just so embedded and passionate about their games. I can't wait for Evo. But
you go into like the when they do the announcements for the characters, like the new ones.
Yeah.
If you look in chat, it's just filled with so much toxic stuff.
Oh yeah. Like,
we're just straight hating.
Their
thing didn't make it to the game.
I personally love my Nintendo Switch. I don't play it that much anymore, but I personally love it. Like they know how to market well. Nintendo does. They know what their audience is, and they know how to push their product compared to the other consoles. And they've kind of taken over a lot compared to the others. With Pokemon Snap coming out, they held that hard for a while. They held that over consoles because we've been wanting it forever since the 64. But they held it and they knew when to release it. They played it right. So,
man, I think that's another game that's overhyped. Is Pokemon Snap. Like, have you played Pokemon Snap within the last 5 years, like the original one?
Yeah, I love it.
All you do is throw little like poison balls and stuff to take pictures of Pokemon. I think it's gonna be way overhyped.
But
I liked it, but I didn't, like it that much.
I personally like it. I love it. It's a callback to whenever I was young. I would get super excited trying to find those. Back in the day, there was little kiosks where you could download your pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I
remember those.
Yeah, people have them. People bought them, kept them. I think they're awesome. But again, Nintendo plays a lot to their heritage of where they came from. They know how to play off the nostalgia factor of a lot of their fans, which again they've gotten me several times. But the games are amazing. So
yeah, they're like the Disney of the gaming world.
Yeah. All they got to do is slap their characters on it, give them a couple, good scenes in a trailer, and it's going to sell. Any new Mario game will sell off the fucking shelf. Any new, if they make a new Donkey Kong, it's going to sell off the fucking shelf. Like, anything they do is going to sell. New Zelda game. As soon as that new Zelda game comes out, which, by the way, looks fucking great, it's going to be amazing. Metroid fans, I feel bad for you fucking guys, so...
I love Metroid.
They have been.
What Zelda game was you talking about? Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, Breath of the Wild 2.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that game.
Yeah, that game could be awesome.
It looks very Majora Mask-y, so that's another reason why I think it's going to be awesome. Majora's Mask is probably my favorite Zelda game.
Dude, that's probably like the hardest Zelda game.
Back in the day, that was fucking brutal, man. When you were a kid, that was brutal as shit.
There was so much shit that you had to do, and it was all like you had to have like perfect timing, and
it was a speed run in itself. Like it was a built-in speed run game. You had to do everything on a certain time, or you were fucked.
I think the hardest thing to do in that game was when you had to like get that couple together for their like marriage before they died to the moon.
Yep.
That race is intense.
That was a very dark game for its time. Very dark.
Very.
A lot of dark shit in that game. I loved it though.
Yeah, like when you're an adult and you actually like go back and look at it, and you're like, damn, this shit's depressing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the end of the world. You're trying to stop the end of the world.
All the zones are just like named depressing things.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I felt about that, because that's another topic that, now that I've thought about it, that I'd like to talk about. The recent Nintendo Direct, them releasing the Skyward Sword remastered. I don't know why. Like, I don't.
That game sucked.
Yeah, it
I
was
hated
terrible.
Skyward Sword.
Yeah, it was terrible. I don't know if they're holding back. I don't know if they're holding back from showing us more until it's ready. Maybe. But I don't know what the outcry or what they thought the interest was for Skyward Sword, unless they're just trying to put more money into the business. People are obviously going to buy it. It's going to be good for people that never played the old one, because it's supposed to be the very first timeline in Zelda. It's supposed to be the very first part of the storyline. Skyward Sword is. I'd have to go back and look. I don't know how the line goes of time of the games.
Dude, the
God,
timeline is...
it's all fucked.
yeah.
But that's supposed to... I know that's supposed to be the very first one in the timeline. Skyward Sword is. It's supposed to be where it all started. So maybe they're setting that up for, people, once they know people have kind of played through that, maybe in the end of the year, we'll see more information about the new one coming out. But yeah, that's probably something I'm looking very forward to on the Switch, because Breath of the Wild was just an absolute fucking masterpiece. So
Yeah, it really, really freaking good game, actually.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Probably the most fun I'd had with a Zelda game since Wind Waker. So now, when it comes to another thought, early access games. Now, a lot of people feel really different. It's very mixed reviews on early access games. I know some people that refuse to buy early access games until they're completed and finished. Mostly because of the fear that it may never be finished. You might be buying a game and playing it for a while, and the developers just decide that they don't want to finish it. And now you're left with an uncompleted game that you spent however much money on, that is just a disappointment now. I personally don't buy that many early access games anymore since PUBG. PUBG was probably the biggest burn and slap in the face to the Battle Royale community I've ever seen. They had such a gem. They had such a good product, and the company just gave up and sold it out to another developer, which turned it into a giant microtransaction. So it's very disappointing and left a bad taste in my mouth, and I will refuse to touch anything early access until then.
Yeah,
That's the game that ruined it for me.
I mean, I don't know. Just like, I've bought a lot of early access games and played a lot, and this is like legit from my experience. 100% of early access games are trash, and 98% of early access games will never release fully. And then half of the ones that do release are still trash. Like, I think it's a terrible business model, and it's pretty much just a scam. It's almost as bad as what's that called that you can do?
GoFundMe?
Yeah, no, it's like crowdfunded.
Kickstarter?
Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's almost as bad as Kickstarter.
I mean, essentially, that's what they're doing. They're basically using Steam as a GoFundMe. Like, they're basically saying, hey, please give me money. This game's not done, but I promise you it's going to be amazing. Just keep funding us. We just need help. Please. They're holding their hands out. Please. And then they're scooping your money in, and they're like, yeah, these dumb motherfuckers, they don't even fucking know. Like, they don't even fucking know we're about to just jump this fucking ship so hard. Like, a lot of these people that are making these indie games, I promise you, this is something that they may even be doing in a fucking basement with their friends. Like, you don't know what you're getting into. I'm not, like, vetoing and protesting against early access games. Don't take that this way. But I think you should proceed with caution anytime that you look at an early access game, especially if it has a humongous price tag on it. You should, in my opinion, you should never, ever invest your hard-earned money up in the $60 range or anything like that into a game that you don't even know as if it's going to be finished or not. That's just my opinion. Don't take it if you don't like it. That's perfectly fine, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, it's like one of the big ones that came out recently was a Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm sure by the end of it, all right, because that company, they always release their games in early access, and they always come out amazing, but just on release, like, there was like nothing.
Yeah, there was like nothing there. They've been adding progressively to it. I'm not gonna lie, and as stated, it's a very successful company, and they've been known to finish their games. But a lot of successful companies that have good reputations have flops. So again, you should always proceed with caution on any early access game. Look at what's another one that flopped really bad? I think Atlas was an early access game at one point, and my God, what a flop! Yes.
Was that the Rust-like game?
That was a pirate Rust-like game. It was a weird fucking game, actually. That game looked like it was made by children when it was first released. Shit was just floating in the air. Like, fish and stuff wasn't even in the water. They were just floating in the sky.
Yeah, there was someone who hacked the servers, and they found that the game was pretty much just painted over Ark or something.
Yep, exactly.
And he hacked in airplanes.
Yep. It was literally the code from Ark, and somebody just redid the visuals.
Well, Ark was terrible in general.
It's been a very successful game, though.
Yeah, but it's still a buggy mess.
And somehow people still play it.
The paint made it buggier.
I played Ark back in alpha, and I can tell you from experience, Ark was a disaster of a game back in alpha even.
I never played it in alpha, but I have it. Okay game.
Justin and I, anyone that's not familiar, Judd is part of the stream crew. We sometimes play video games together. Him and I, back in the day, in 2012, 2013, I can't remember exactly, signed up for the alpha and actually got in. We were super excited, downloaded it as soon as it released, as soon as the servers were about to go live, loaded in, and absolute fucking train wreck. I would be walking, and then next thing I know, I'd be down in the ground. I would just be staring at the ground above me and couldn't move. I would log out, log back in. All my shit would be gone that I'd collected, and I'd start all over. We finally got to the point where we were able to build a hut, and then all of a sudden, for some fucking reason, a mammoth spawned right on top of our house and crushed it. We spent literally fucking 3 hours building this goddamn hut, and a mammoth just spawned out of the sky and just slammed right on top. It's no fucking joke. I wish that I had a fucking clip of it. It was fucking priceless. But we said, all right, that's fine. It's an alpha, ha ha ha. And then we found that, again, somebody had hacked the game and already had in-game weapons and was just chasing us around, griefing us. And then we just said, no, we're not doing this anymore. I uninstalled it that day and haven't played it since. But, I have heard good things. I can't say that experience is for everyone. I have heard recently that a lot of people that have their own Ark servers enjoy the game. They love it. They absolutely love it.
If you have your own server, it's fine. But to play on the public servers or random servers, it's dead. The game's dead because people can server hop, and these giant I guess clans is what they are in that game.
Yes.
Would just hop to every server and destroy everything. They're like, oh, we're gonna go raid this server today, and I don't know. I'm all for open world PvP, but these people could do it at any time. They're like, hey, let's just hop over the server, bring our 600 people with 1,000 dinosaurs and machine guns, and go and destroy this other server when nobody's logged on.
I genuinely have I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard some people say this game is fucking fantastic. I play it all the time. I play it every single day. I've played it since 3 years ago. They play it every single day. They play with their friends, and it's just a blast. But again, I've also heard people say that I fucking hate this game. I played it for 2 seconds and uninstalled it. It's one of those things where you just kind of have to base it and use it at your discretion. Keep in mind that Steam refunds, you got 2 hours. Log into the game, try it out for a little bit. If you don't like it, uninstall it. Just remember to put a timer on your other screen. Make sure you're not breaking that 2 hours because they're not going to give you your shit back. So that's something to keep in mind. In general, I think early access games are a bait. In my opinion, they're not all a bait, obviously, but you have to be very, very careful. Main
fair advice.
Yeah, main thing is be very careful. Watch the developers, look at their history. If they're a brand new developer and this is their very first game, you definitely want to proceed with extreme caution. because you do not know what you're getting yourself into, unless you just don't care what you spend your money on, which is, again, that's your money, your business. But
what was that one game we played? I'm pretty sure that was early access, where we were like these dwarfs and we were just
it
mining.
was early access. But I am part of their Discord channel, and they put a fuck ton of work into that game.
That game is amazing. It's Deep Rock Galactic right here.
Yeah,
I found it on my Steam list.
Deep Rock Galactic. The developers, again, that's another game that was early access. Went out on a whim, purchased it. We all purchased it. 3 of us did. And that game is fucking fantastic. And they have put a fuck ton of work into that game. They actually put their heart and soul into it. They put so many updates
I got
out.
Another one.
Okay.
Risk of Rain 2.
I
Never played it.
Yeah, I did not play it, but I know very few people, Haru included, that Haru has many names, by the way. That's why I got confused for a second. But Haru and a few other friends that we have played the shit out of that game. So it's another one, and you might want to look into that one. So
They do awesome updates. Like, they do updates all the time with like new content and stuff. Even though the game's finished, they really, really love their own game, and it shows.
And that's one thing that you run into with a lot of early access and indie developers. Some developers are really passionate about what they do, and they make fantastic games. It literally is like rolling the dice. If you really are concerned with what the money you're spending, you just need to do the research and look at the developer and see if it's worth investing in. Because it's an early access game is basically like a GoFundMe account or a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So
Honestly, I would say that about like even finished games lately. Like all the modern games now that are pushed out, there's like no heart or soul in them. They're just pushed out for money.
Cyberpunk.
what?
That's an example.
Well, what I have noticed over time with developers is back in the day when it was just your game came on a disc and that was it. There was no updates. There was no bullshit. There was no anything. Your heart and soul better be on that fucking disc or you're fucked. So now they have the option. They have the scapegoat of being like, we're sorry, we'll push updates out to it. We'll make it better. We promise. Don't take it back. So
We'll release the same damn game over and over again for 10 years.
I
And they're
completely
still
agree.
buggy.
Call of Duty.
Assassin's Creed.
Call of Duty. Fuck Call of Duty.
That's a great game.
If you love Call of Duty, no offense, but fuck Call of Duty. But any game that takes fucking 500 gigs on a drive to put in is fucking disastrous. But to end with the early access games, just proceed with caution. A lot of them are great games. A lot of them have very good developers that are very passionate about what they do. Just do your research and it should be fine. One of the things that I feel like has had a huge hard time pushing forward past the mega monster of Blizzard is MMOs. I feel like they have straight up struggled, other than one or two, to even get off the ground because of the monster that is Blizzard.
I don't even think it's Blizzard. I think it's MMO players in general.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can
Because,
see
look,
that.
They're so picky. Like, a new game will come out, and they don't give it time. Like, every game that is a company's first time releasing it, right? It's gonna be a buggy mess. Like, I'm in the Ashes of Creation alpha testing, right? And I can't really talk much about it, but it's doing okay. That's all I'll say. But people, you gotta give them time to get their servers right and get things done. And it's people just, it's like Bless. Whenever that game came out, it came out, everybody, it was a buggy mess. On day one, the servers were unstable and everybody quit playing it, didn't even give it a chance. It's so ridiculous. And then you have people that are just completely against pay to win because they've been burnt by Korean MMOs so much, and I understand that. But that's a successful business model, and as much as I don't like it, it's gonna I think that's the future for MMOs, is just small communities with microtransactions.
Do you really believe that though? There's not gonna be what you're gonna see as a subscription based thing? You think people are gonna go away from that? You think it's gonna be more of a pay to win situation, that if you want to get better at the game, you will have to pay a significant amount of money into it? It's like an investment thing.
Yeah, like I think it's gonna be like that, and I think games like this isn't an MMO, but games like Genshin Impact making $1 billion in 6 months just show like where the money is in the market, and like all these big AAA companies, like they try to make MMOs, right? Like NC Soft tried to make WildStar, and that game just completely flopped, and it was everything all these MMO players say they want. It's like old school WoW. It was like hard. Like you had to grind to get stuff. Everything mattered. It was subscription based, and it failed.
Why do you
Like
think it failed?
it failed because of the players. Like players are so entitled. Like I thought the game was great actually. Like the combat and everything and the grind in it seemed fine to me, but people just they don't want that. They want something that like almost something like a battle royale where you can play it for like 5 or 10 minutes and get some sort of reward out of it and not have to put in the time.
Yeah, pretty much.
I could see that. Haru, you're an MMO player. You're a pretty avid MMO player. Why do you think it's so hard for other MMO players to branch out from, like, say they were a WoW player or say they were a Final Fantasy, I can't even remember the number, player. Yeah.
I mean, pretty much what Randall said. I mean, even Blizzard has a market now, and they put one in Burning Crusade Classic, where you can buy like mounts and shit.
Is that in the Burning Crusade Classic?
It's not in the beta, but yes, it's going to be in the Classic.
I did see a lot of people complaining about the fact that you can character boost in Burning Crusade.
Yep, that's going to be a thing. The mounts are going to be a thing. So pretty much every hard part that was in Burning Crusade, they're going to take out. You just buy it.
Yeah, and I don't think, and people might disagree with me on this, but I don't think Classic was as successful as people thought it was going to be. I think it was a nostalgia factor when it first hit, but...
Well, I think a lot of people just expected it to be super, super hard, and it just wasn't. It was easy. Everything was easy because everybody knew what to do.
And not just that, if you didn't know what to do, it was shown on streams, it was in forums, like the internet itself just completely changed the way that game was played.
Yeah,
like,
people in general just got better at playing MMOs.
Yes.
And then the community's super toxic too. Like I remember playing with Haru, and we were doing the Scarlet Monastery to level up, and there was this guy that was just doing everything wrong, and just the whole time would just blame Travis or Haru because he's the tank. and I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, like these players aren't even good, and they're super toxic. Like, what in the world is this community? And it's because of streamers and online like gods and stuff. They think like they see something, and then they automatically think they know everything about the game. And it's like there was even metas formed for how to like grind dungeons, like dungeons that I remember being super hard. Like one mispull and you were dead, but now it's like, oh, you just take 2 mages and just AoE everything down. Yeah, like when we did that the first time, my mind was blown. Like I remember wiping so many times in Scarlet Monastery with a normal group. Like the what's the first one? Graveyard?
Yeah.
Yeah, in there, that one room where, like, if you pull an extra pack with a normal group, you're dead. Even in Classic, you were, right? Like, if the mages messed up. But then, like, they're not just pulling that room. They're pulling that room plus another room. It was dumb. They were doing the whole dungeon in 2 pulls. And I think that just ruined the Classic experience. Like, we're never going to get another MMO like that unless it's, like, a brand new one.
It has to be completely re-innovated. You can't expect to use the same wheel over and over, and people are not just going to figure it out in 2 seconds.
The problem is that if you make something harder than like Classic was, you start to lose like a large majority of players
right out the gate.
Like,
yeah,
you only get the hardcore players.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And it like nerfs the money that they get.
Yeah, it nerfs the money they get right out the gate, which kills a lot of their funds. I mean, that's the biggest part of a video game is the initial sell. Like when the game releases, the initial sell basically pays everybody back for all the work they've done. So if you can't get those sales initially, your company is dying. So I don't know. Like I'm really hopeful maybe that I can find one that I've always wanted to like MMOs. I've tried playing them a lot. I just never could get into them. So this is kind of an interesting topic where as we have Haru and Daydream, which are very fluent and I consider very experts on MMOs, and I'm kind of like a novice / intermediate player. And I personally don't even know what I want. I feel like I'm in the group of people that think they know what they want, but they don't. They don't know what they want. They think that they have an idea in their head as to what the game is supposed to be, but when they play it, they're like, oh, this is dumb, or oh, I don't want to do this, or this is too easy, or oh, no, this is too hard. I don't want to do this now. It's going to take too much time. So I think MMOs are just a very hard thing to find a balanced center for an overall player base.
I agree with that, and even like between me and Haru here, like we like very different MMOs like now, and like
I think we're hungry for the same type of game, like something that's like BDO, but with like the world of WoW or something.
Yeah, and like like we're both obviously PvP heads. I don't know why or how, but we both prefer that over PvE, or at least I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And
I
then
like PvP.
And like, but that's one thing for us is like PvP is like a dying breed in MMOs, like because of just I don't want to like
It's the player base.
I don't want to shit talk on casual players, but casual players do not like PvP because they're casual and they don't have the time to take to learn all these little intricacies or animation cancels or timings or how to counter things.
I agree. I completely agree.
And then it's like you do get a PvP MMO and you get the casuals in there and they just complain about everything that they think is overpowered, and then it gets nerfed when in reality that wasn't even the strongest thing. Something else comes along that's like way stronger, and at that point there's nothing that can compete with it because the only other viable options were nerfed.
From a perspective of someone that doesn't know a lot about PvP in MMOs, it's always been like a very noobish type of area for me. I can speak from what a lot of people complain about. They don't want to take the time to learn it. I could see it being a better experience for a game that hasn't been out for a while. Maybe if it was a new game and everybody was learning as it came along. I could see maybe a game being able to take advantage and have a better PvP experience. But take from consideration like games like WoW or whatnot, you have people that are so seasoned in PvP that it's just very hard to get into if you don't have really a good foundation, and it can be very discouraging if you're not. But in a perspective of being able to have a game that just came out, everybody's new to it, maybe not everyone understands it fully yet, I believe that it would have a better chance at PvP. But a lot of people are trying to push more story-based content. I know Final Fantasy, their supposedly their story-based content's where it's at. There's not really a lot of PvP going on.
I like story. That's fun, but I also really like gameplay and I like difficulty.
Like I even like raiding to an extent, but as I'm getting older and like this is a really elitist mindset, but I just like I don't want to deal with like players that just have no idea what they're doing.
I think you run into in raiding, it's very hard to find a group of, let's just say it's like WoW. Say you base every game of raiding like WoW. At the maximum difficulty of raiding, at the elitist of level of raiding, you need 20 people. It's hard to find 20 people that are on the same page, that they're all here for this, and there's not one person that's like, oh, you know, I had a bad day, so I'm kind of off a little bit, I'm sorry, or some person it's like, oh, most people have families now that play video games, so maybe they got to run out of the room because their kid's crying, or, you know, something's happening. It's hard to stay focused unless you have that elitist level or you're of a younger age.
And then a lot of the problems too, like for me at least, is whenever I do find like a top guild, it's just full of toxic people. Like the only game like I was ever in a top guild and it wasn't just completely toxic. This isn't counting BDO because that's a PvP game, no raiding involved. but was a Maple Story 2, and it's like that group of people, like we weren't the best guild, but we were like top 3 on the server, and like nobody was toxic, and we were all nice, and we helped each other learn the fights and everything. And that's something that's really hard to find, and I can see why like raiding isn't something that a super casual wants to do like on a hardcore level.
And that's the reasons you need different tiers. And I think that's one of the things that WoW does well. But
I was about to say that WoW is really good at pandering to different playstyles. They used to be like way better when you could like jump in if you wanted to try PvP out. You could just earn the gear from PvP. Like when they used to have like the NPCs and the tokens.
Yeah, that was like I haven't played since Pandaria, so that's how I remember WoW.
you can do that. You can do that now in Shadowlands. You can get all.
Sort of, but it's not the same as it was. Like,
well,
when you could just PvP.
You have two different options. The way that Shadowlands expansion was geared initially, because I played initially for the first couple of months. The way it was geared is you had to go. If you either went two different directions, you either went PvP or PvE. That's the two different directions you went. But I do know that in Mythic raiding, a lot of the big top guild of Mythic raiders had to do PvP because that was where the best gear was at. They had to. They had to have PvP gear.
That's another reason, like, I personally, like, won't go back to WoW, is there's so much stuff like that. If it's not PvP to get gear, it's like dailies. If it's not dailies, it's something else. There's always something random you have to do that's not raiding to be able to do raiding. And it's like, why? Like, why can't I just do dungeons and go through up raid tiers?
And I hate the world quest.
I hate...
That's pretty much how they replace dailies, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's just world quests for each different region, and now they've even went further with it. That if you're trying to get your covenant abilities, that's a new thing that they've introduced this expansion. It's called covenant abilities. You have to focus on doing every little thing you possibly can for each covenant to get more revered or more reputation with them. So you unlock better stuff to progress further in the game. It's basically just a mindless grind over stupid shit. So that's another thing that I see that I'm scared that a lot of other MMOs are going to try to incorporate into their game because they actually think people like it. Blizzard actually thinks people like doing these things, like World Quest. They actually think people do. But
I mean, there is like a pretty casual audience that plays that game too, and that's probably the majority of the player base. Like even you, right? You consider yourself like an intermediate player. Like, you're probably in, like, the top, like, 10% of players. As much as you played. Because I remember when you were playing and you were telling me about everything that you were doing. That's not, like, casual play. That's borderline hardcore elitist ways to play WoW.
Well, I was going to give it an honest shot. I never really played WoW at an elitist level, and I wanted that experience. I wanted to say that I tried it. I wanted to say that I know how it feels. And after this expansion, I played the first 2 or 3 months of the first tier. I played up to a heroic level, but I could tell that it wasn't for me. How that the expansion was geared. Unfortunately, I played nothing but warrior, and warriors got absolutely fucking destroyed. My favorite spec, Fury Warriors, got absolutely fucking destroyed with the Nerf Hammer. They weren't able to play in the raid. If you were a Fury Warrior, you got benched immediately by your guild because you weren't able to put out as much DPS as others. And it kind of soured the game for me because that's another thing with how metas work now and whatnot. If you play a certain spec and you've played it forever and it gets nerfed, you're basically dead in the water and have to learn a new class.
This is something I think that affects from like what you were saying. You are like an intermediate to like high player down to like all the way to like the bottom, but that doesn't really affect like the highest tier players because they're usually so good and so geared on the class, like they could just play it anyways. Maybe not for like say like a world's first race, but they're still like, and they could still do it. But like a normal, even like a good player can't. Like, you've got to be so practiced at it it's ridiculous.
You have to be extremely seasoned. Like, you've been playing it every expansion since the game came out. I'm not saying every expansion, but you played it over the course of a few expansions. You're pretty seasoned at it. But if you're fairly new to the game and you're trying to play it at an elitist level, you have to be prepared to change classes if you want to push content. Now, if you're not wanting to push content, you just want to play the game, you can play whatever. But if you're trying to push content, you have to play what the meta is showing you. And it's just not for me. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And it's just not for me. Go ahead.
What? Oh, no, you continue. I'll talk after you.
The only thing that I don't necessarily like in regards to it is I don't really like how the MMOs are perceived. I think that open world BDO type of situations would maybe benefit me more because you can kind of do whatever you want. I know there was an MMO at one point. I can't remember the name of it. It's leaving me right now. Everybody played it. Fuck. Arcade. That sandboxy type of play style, I think, is more. I want to see MMOs go. I want to see MMOs go that direction. I don't want to see any more of this. I want things to be optional, basically. I don't want to have to do the same thing over and fucking over every day. It burns people out. If you don't get burned out from doing that, you're I don't know what's wrong with you.
Well, I
like,
mean,
The reason it was so good on there is because, like, you never knew what the hell was going to happen. Like, you didn't know if you was going to get, like, PvP'd and, like, have all your shit stolen.
or end up in a pirate fight. Like, that game was so fun. Or start out in the leveling zone and some guy comes across, like, on a giant boat on the land, dragging it with the anchors and harpoons.
That was literally our first experience in that game. We logged in and there was just, like, two dudes, like, pulling a boat across the, like, dirt with a harpoon.
Yeah, not wearing any clothes either.
Yeah, they were both naked. And we got naked and jumped on the boat.
Yeah, and then we all danced and took screenshots. See, experiences like that, that's something you can't get in WoW anymore.
no, you can't.
But, like, even BDO to an extent, you still can get experiences like that. But not with the bugs, but just, like, random things happening. Because it's a sandbox, so there's no raids. Like, there's no dungeons. They're adding a dungeon, though, apparently. But they've tried in the past and always failed.
And that was an early access game when you played it, wasn't it? When you first started playing it, that was early access, right?
What, BDO?
Yeah.
No.
I swear I thought it was early access. I thought it didn't get released until recently.
It
No, they
it was out in
remastered it.
Korea for, like, a while.
Yeah. And, like, I understand why people don't like that game. Like, why it's not for everybody. Because, like, it's either you have to be really into, like, money making, like with professions from WoW, they're called life skills in that game. Or you have to be willing to sit there and just grind mobs in a circle forever to get your upgrades. And then it's RNG, right? And RNG turns off a lot of people. I enjoy it. I like gambling. That's how I make my money in that game. I gamble money and I get, like, months worth of upgrades in, like, a couple weeks. Or it's 3 months and I don't get anything.
There are people out there that have gambling addictions that don't even know they have gambling addictions. I promise you that.
I'm 100% one, and that's why I don't play Genshin Impact anymore.
Oh man, I personally am okay with RNG. I think it's completely fine. I play a lot of games that RNG plays a factor whenever I'm not streaming. I went for a while on Pokemon and loved to farm shinies. I love to go after shinies, and that is completely RNG. But I personally think that that's fine in an MMO. I want to see the sandbox kind with the new experience. I know that there's a lot of MMOs that have just straight up failed, though, that had such good potential. And that's my concern moving forward. Is there going to be an MMO that is going to be able to capture our hearts and be able to sustain long enough to have good content and to be able to have a good player base that we all can enjoy? I know that New World, Amazon, hyped the shit out of that game. And
they've been making all kinds of changes to it too. Like, it's actually looking good.
But I've heard mixed reviews. You see articles all the time.
Well, no, when it what was that, like a test that we got to play? I forget what they called it.
Yeah, they called it a test. It was for like a couple weeks.
there wasn't much to do, but the changes that they've made since then, it's like drastic. It's like a completely different type of MMO now. But even then, like I think that game is going to be better than what people think, but I still don't think it's going to be like
A game
even
changer.
even to the level of BDO, right? Because you
Yeah.
know, like the big three right now are like WoW, Final Fantasy, and then Elder Scrolls or BDO. Like those two are
Yeah.
after. Like they're nowhere near the first two.
Ah, God, I don't like Elder Scrolls. I'm gonna be honest.
That
It's
game
not
was
for
so
me.
fun.
It's
That
not
game
for
was so
me.
fun. But one thing that I want to know, right? Because I play BDO mostly, right? I still play it, and that's like, is it that hard to recreate what they've done with the combat? Because that game now is like, I think it's getting close to 10 years old. Let me see when it released really quick.
I have never experienced BDO combat, but I will shortly. I will actually be able to experience it and have my own opinion on it.
Yeah, okay.
So
That game came out in 2014, right? And nobody has been able to even close to replicate what they've done with combat in that game. And even like that game itself, like there's desync issues occasionally, or not occasionally, like a lot, like with the servers. And I'm just wondering, like, because since even like they can't perfect it, like I'm wondering if like we're never gonna get an MMO with good combat again after BDO is dead.
I mean, I don't know. We have Ashes of Creation coming. We have New World coming.
I'm banking on.
Yeah, we have these two MMO hype trains that are coming down the rails that we might see something for. We don't know yet. I'm open-minded to it. The only thing that I'm scared of with Ashes of Creation is they are marketing and promoting it to be more like a better WoW. I hate those words. As soon as the developer says that, it just completely...
It's going to be a better Arc Age.
A better Arc Age, okay.
Yeah, from what I've like seen of it, heard of it, and I guess what I have tested. Geez, please don't hear this, Steven, ever and ban me. But it's a lot like Arc Age, like combat and everything. But they're putting in a lot of work on that game too. It's like I have faith that it's gonna turn into something great, or at least something decent.
Yeah, don't ban him,
No,
Steven.
really.
He's doing a great job promoting your game. Don't ban him.
Yeah. And then, well, he has no clue who I am either. But,
He
and then-
might eventually.
No, my account's in my buddy's name who bought it, so
Rip.
we're good. But yeah, what's that? Oh, New World. Yeah, New World though, like the combat in it's fun and it's more actiony than like most games, but it's doesn't hold a candle to what Black Desert's combat is. I'm
but
beginning
are you
to
fu-
think
are you
it's
s-
actually impossible?
Are you
to
suffering?
recreate that.
Are you suffering from WoW syndrome though?
No,
Are you suffering from wanting to have that same feeling again?
no, I don't need that feeling again. I can pick up any MMO and I play them for the grind. I don't play them for that crazy like feeling you get of having nothing and just having a good time and discovery. Like I don't play MMOs for that. I've played so much, and I'm not trying to say this to brag or anything, but I'm such like an elite level of like a player in MMOs that I can pick up pretty much any and end up in a top guild in like a month or two. I just understand them, and I have such a high understanding of the games and how they work. Like I can't get that WoW feeling ever again.
I can't even argue that. About every MMO you've ever touched, you've been at the top level. So I completely take anything you say with MMOs at a high regard. And
Yeah, it's just I can't get the casual experience. I've tried. It doesn't work.
I don't know if you'll ever be able to see a video game be able to appeal at an MMO level, be able to appeal to everyone. They need to pick a direction where they want to go. Do they want to be able to appeal to the like elitists in the more aspect and have some
No.
play for a casual, or do they need to appeal to the casuals and just have elitists be turned off by it?
what you have to appeal to the casuals, but you have to have content for the elitists to do too, right? Like that's where WoW has probably the best balance.
I can agree with
even,
that.
Even BDO to an extent. I don't know anything about Final Fantasy because I've never played it, but BDO, right? Like I have casual friends that's played that game since before even I started, right? And they're still playing, just doing random things, tending to their farms. You know, their gear's better than average because they've played for so long, but they don't use it. Like they don't go out and grind. They don't like PvP often. You know, it's really hard to find that balance where you give the casual something where they want to get on every day and play for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, an hour, but you have to have something else that the elite players or hardcore players can do for 10 hours a day and not get bored and give them something to always chase.
I mean, I think that's why Arcade was so like amazing, because it really didn't matter how long you played or whatever, because and all the like major content, numbers was the key.
Oh yeah, dude, Arcade was such a good game.
What happened to Arcade, really? What I don't know. I stopped playing. What really happened to
win.
it? Pay to win?
This was before
It
Pay to
happened like
Win was
overnight.
accepted.
Was it bought out by a different company, or did the developers just
No,
go this
they
direction?
opened up a cash shop and put like the most expensive and rare items in there, and it completely killed the market and the game.
Yeah, and even before that, like, what we didn't know was that on release, they had these items in there, right? Like, Travis, you've played Korean MMOs a lot. Like, you know what a protection scroll is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had protection scrolls in there that you couldn't get in-game, so you could upgrade your items, like, rarity and stats, and if you failed, the item would poof, right? Like, disappear.
Ooh, okay.
But you could buy the protection scrolls, and it wouldn't poof.
That's
and
broken. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's really
like
common in Korean MMOs. Like, BDO does it too in a way, but it's not. But BDO's just they've mastered that system of upgrading and destroying and downgrading. What?
Fly Theft did it too, and that game's old as fuck.
Yeah. That's just a really common practice in Korean MMOs, and like pay to win's getting more accepted in the West now. But back then, like when Arcade hit, like even me, and like I'll play a pay to win game now. Like I won't pay to win super hard on it, but you know I'll play one. But even back then, as soon as I realized there was pay to win in it, I was just like, no, this game's garbage. Done.
There were also like the bots that were like buying up the land.
Oh my god! I made a daggone script to buy land for me, and it still wasn't as fast as the bots. My coding was like good enough to make a script. I couldn't make a program to do it for me.
But yeah, I think that it's going to take a lot for people to be able to fall in love with another MMO. I think so many people, not mainly people that are in this group, but a lot of people are so fixated on that feeling that they had when they played like one of their first MMOs, whether it been WoW or whatnot, and that just captivated them, and they just couldn't get over how amazing this was. They are going to always want that experience. They're still looking for it, still striving for it, and they're going to have a hard time finding it. And I think that's why a lot of MMOs are so... They have a really hard time getting off the ground. They might even be a great MMO, but they have a really hard time getting off the ground because of that experience. Or so many people look at it and they're like, oh, WoW's better. Oh, WoW. I'm already playing an MMO, and I'm so fixated on WoW, so I'm just going to stay here. They're scared to branch out because...
I get to get this feeling in a few months when the D2 remake comes out.
Would you consider that an MMO?
No, I wouldn't. It's an action RPG.
Yeah.
Player.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you really pushed it, I guess, because it is playing multiplayer online with a lot of people.
Yeah. Would you consider that this is possibly a good direction for that game though, compared to the old one?
I mean, they didn't change anything about it. They just gave it new makeup. I think that a lot of people might think it's slow when they first look at it.
Dude, it looks so slow, like watching people play
Path of Exile. But even if you compared like late game D2 to Path of Exile, D2's gameplay is like insanely fast. Like you don't even see your animations. Everybody's flying around like Dragon Ball Z characters. And like PvP is literally just you warping around the map, firing off shots, and praying to God that something hits.
So, do you think, since I know that there wasn't PvP in D3, right?
I don't know.
It was like a little after like 3 patches they added it in, but no, not really. I mean, it was technically there, but no one did it.
Yeah, I believe that that will be interesting. Have they said they're keeping the PvP in D2 Remaster?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't be D2 without that.
Yeah, but they've also taken it out of things previously they tried to remaster, like Warcraft. They've taken out things that were originally in it.
Well, they did this remake like way different. Like
Yeah.
they actually didn't touch the game at all.
Yeah,
They
it's just like
A layer over top of the old game.
Okay.
yeah.
Does it look better than the Median XL that everybody's been playing?
Dude, I hate that game.
A Median XL is just like a totally different beast, and graphically, it looks the same as D2, but the resolution is like way higher. But with the remake of the D2, it's totally different. Like it's like 3D lighting and everything.
Okay, all right. Why do you think that they remade D2 first?
Money.
No, what?
Money.
No, I was asking, why do you think they remade D2 first over Diablo?
Money.
Because most people remember D2
Yeah.
and really misses the first Diablo. I mean, the first Diablo is great, but everybody remembers D2 because it was pretty much Diablo, but just way fucking better.
I never even played Diablo 1, and I got it for free.
It
with
was
D2.
it was like a light version of D2. That's all it was. Like it was basic. It was like if it,
It didn't age well, like at all.
no, it did not. I've played it recently.
But
Just
D2,
yeah.
There's people that still to this day play D2.
Oh, I know that very fully. We see it all the time.
I think when people first get D2, I think they're going to be really shocked at how fast like a lot of the community moves forward with that game. That game will be beaten on the hardest difficulty on the first day by hundreds of people.
So what? So if this game is going to move so fast, since people have already played it, what do you think is going to keep people playing it for a while?
It's D2.
Literally, it's addictive. It's just farming and trying to get better gear.
I just-
making ridiculous builds to PvP with.
I was just wondering, is it going to suffer from the classic WoW syndrome, where people are going to love it at first, and they're going to grind the shit out of it, and then they're going to be done with it in like a year?
No,
I
ARPGs.
think that's going to
are
be
different
like
beast.
some of the community, but there's already like a really hardcore dedicated fan base for D2.
Yeah,
Compared to classic WoW.
and
Yeah.
not just that, it's like in classic WoW, you can do a raid once a week, right?
Yeah.
And it takes hours, and you have to put up with other people. In D2, at least from what I know, like I didn't really play it that much, but this is what the idea that I get is I could just make a magic find sort and go and like just grind out forever to get, better items.
Yeah.
It's the same reason people play Path of Exile. Like even Path of Exile, like a new season comes out, people have beat like all of it in a day, but then they're grinding maps forever for gear.
Yeah, people beat the game in like the first day, but they'll be farming for like the next 2 years.
So you could see this game, people having a very passionate fan base, and it being
Oh,
very
yeah, I can
popular
see,
for.
like a lot of people getting addicted, like new people getting addicted to the game.
Okay. Do you
Like,
see
it-
there
it's
being some
literally
form of
built
cash
around-
shop? Do you see there being some form of cash shop like there was in like D3? Do you think they will try to go to that direction, or do you think they learned their lesson?
I don't think they'll ever do that again.
Because I know that was a huge thing. That was
If they did that to D2, it would pretty much kill like all of the gameplay, and the game would just become PvP, and a large majority of people would just quit.
okay. All right. Do you think they've learned their lesson also, and foresee any issues with them having any kind of server issues like the legendary one that was with D3 at the beginning as when the game released.
Oh,
People
God.
couldn't get in
Yeah, I lived
forever.
through that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, like, I think D2, like, at least from like our generation and maybe even like a couple generations above us, is probably like one of the most nostalgic games for people. And because of that, it's gonna bring in all these new players too. I think no matter how good the servers are, like, they're gonna just be a shit show.
But do
for,
you
like,
think-
a week.
The
But do
servers
you-
are gonna tank.
But do you think it'll be as bad as it was? That game was heavily negatively reviewed because of this at the beginning.
I think it's
mean,
gonna be pretty bad.
I think it's gonna be worse. Like, you didn't experience the classic WoW like me. and
I
Travis
watched
did.
it. I watched streams of it.
Like, we would have to like talk to each other and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna get in queue now," and like
Literally
it would
time
take,
our
like,
day
8
around, like,
hours.
connecting and playing the game. And then I got banned from playing for like a week because the game was getting DDoS and they banned like Linux players. And I had to do like funky shit to make my computer or operating system say that it was Windows, so they would let me in.
Yeah, that's some of the main things that I was thinking about when they first announced that this game was going to be remastered. Was it going to be a shit show like it was before? Were they going to have a cash shop? Were they going to try to play off of that little thing? Since it's going to be so popular, a lot of people may be okay with that now that pay to win has become kind of a thing in video games. I didn't know if they were going to try to go that route.
No, it
No.
wouldn't work in a game like D2. It'd kill
Yeah.
any reason to play it.
Yeah, like in a pay to win, like for a game to be pay to win and be successful, it has to be one, like, good enough for free to play players to like play and be able to grind and still have a good time, right? But then on top of that, there has to be like an endless grind that pay to win can't like complete for you.
How?
And, I mean, I know there's a big grind in Diablo 2, but if you could, like, I couldn't see any pay-to-win items that wouldn't just, like, make the grind non-existent.
Do you think that the reason that they're doing a D2 remaster is because they have no idea to go what direction to go with Diablo 4? Do you think they need more time? Do you think that's why they're releasing this?
No, I think they might be releasing it to hype people up for D4.
Yeah, I think they're
like
doing
feed
that.
them until they release it.
And then, like, I mean, yeah, classic WoW, people got bored with it eventually, but, like, that game was a success. Like, just
Yeah.
straight up. Like, I mean, 8 hour queue times for us to play, like, like a month into the game. Still. Like, it was a success. And I think they saw that success, and they're like, hey, what else did people really like that we did? And they're like, oh, Diablo 2 is the next giant. So might as well remaster it.
Yeah, that was something that kind of crossed my mind. I wasn't sure on it. If the reason that they were releasing D2 is, honestly, it's also a good idea, like you all just said, to reintroduce the community to the game and bring back people that were nostalgic to it and for newcomers. And it's a good promotion for Diablo 4 to get people, interested in the story or, interested in the gameplay. But it was also a concern of mine that was maybe Diablo 4 is having troubles and this buys them some time to get more development into it.
I mean, with COVID and everything, I think it's going to be a while before we see Diablo 4 anyways.
Diablo 4 at the moment looks pretty great to me. Like, they went back to the old style that, D4 had with that, like really grim and dark style.
Man,
Compared to, like, D3's, like,
Superhero form. I call it superhero style.
cell shaded.
Yeah. It was very superhero-esque. It was more like, it's you were built up as this hero that was going to go save everything, and it was very over the top compared to D2, which was just this dark, depressing run of humanity trying its best to save everything. You felt like on the low tier, and in D3 I felt like I was already A tier, like I was already up on the top. So
They were already, like, promoting you as, like, some kind of demigod.
yeah, like you were promoted as like, there's no reason for you to lose this fight, dude. Like, there's no fucking reason. You better not lose this fight. Compared to D2, where you were like, oh, we might. we might win. We're likely to lose over winning, but you were presented as a mortal. This should not work. You should not be able to take down Diablo. You should not be able to win. And in 3, it's like, well, you got basically Tyrion on your side, so you better fucking win. Like,
okay, I have a question for you guys, okay? And this is about D4, right? And one thing that kind of turns me off from it is I didn't really play D2, so I can't, like, I played it, but I never actually played it. Like, I was too young to understand games back then. But, okay, I watched this trailer, and the animations compared to something like Path of Exile or even Lost Ark, which is an amazing game, by the way, it looks clunky to me. Like, almost the same as, like, when I watched this Diablo 2 gameplay at the beginning, it looks, like, super clunky. Do you think, like, by end game, it'll be, like, more fast-paced than what they're showing in all these trailers?
100%.
Do you think maybe that they should show that instead of this slow, weird, clunky gameplay?
I think they
that
will
really
eventually,
turns me off, like,
but
looking at it.
then again, in all of like their trailers and stuff, they never like display anything that a high school player or a high gear player would be doing. You know, like they don't replicate that very well, like ever.
yeah.
See, because it's like like even in like Path of Exile though and Lost Ark both, which I think Lost Ark has probably the best action RPG combat system I've played so far. But in like both of those games, it's like straight out the gate. Like in Lost Ark, you could do all these combos and like you have all these big flashy animations. And like in Path of Exile, like if you've ever played that game's fast paced from the start, or at least it used to be. I haven't played that game.
I played it for a little bit, but from what I've seen, that game is ridiculously fast-paced in game.
Path of Exile was pretty much like D3 in a sense, because that's why it was, it came to be. Because the way D3 was looking, they were like, nah, fuck that. And they made their own game that closely replicated like the D2 experience. So if you like Path of Exile, you're gonna like D2.
Oh, I loved Path of Exile. I quit playing it because I was playing it with a group of people that I'd met in game, and drama happens in groups, and my group kind of broke up, and I'm like, well, what in the world? Because I was the one, like, I had all the maps, right? Because like I would play more than they would, so I would have the maps, and they had like the hardcore carry builds, and then we had one guy that would run nothing but Magic Find, and so like we had a solid group, and we were farming, we were just having a good old time, and like this older guy and this younger guy just could not get along, and it finally got so bad that the whole group just tore apart.
Well, back in my day, boy.
No, that's really good. It was like this like 16-year-old kid and like this 40-year-old man, and they just. It was like he was trying to like
had that dad concept.
Yeah, like he had like a dad concept where he's just trying to like tell him what to do and how to do things, and that kid, he's a 16-year-old kid, and like I was only like 19 back then, so he's closer to like our generation.
You're not my dad, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't having it, and like eventually it blew up, and our whole group split, and like, I mean, dude, we had some of the rarest items in the game. Like back then, like a fishing pole wasn't something that you got. Like we had one of those. We had a mirror, which was super rare. Like and we just had these collectively as a group because we played as a group. We helped each other gear and gave people money. It just worked like that. But
rolling back for a second on the collecting part and whatnot, do you think any game, any MMO or RPG or anything like that is going to be able to capture that experience again, to where you can collect things and things that are held in a high regard? Because that's one thing that WoW has, is that there are things in the game that are held at such a high regard that if someone's seen with it, people basically bow to them. Like that is like a status symbol. Do you think that will be captured again?
Yeah.
I think pretty much every Korean MMO.
Yeah. I was about to say
they have the cash shop like items like costumes, and they only release them like one time, and those items become like super expensive, and it becomes a status symbol.
And even then, there's like weapons and stuff that you can upgrade, and like there'll be eventually like an upgrade that no matter how much you pay to win, you've got to be the luckiest person on Earth to get. And like, if you have one of those items, like you could just link it. Like, I had a pin ogre in BDO, which now it's common because they inflated the whole game, like, and how much money people make by like 100 times, which is ridiculous to me. But like, I had one of those, and I could just link it in chat, and people would be like, "What the? Like, what the? How'd this guy get that? You're lucky, RNG dog." Like, stuff like that will always exist, I think.
In Fly FF, there was this event one time, and they had it twice, where you would take an item to a GM, and you could put like ridiculous stats that you had on another item and put it on that item, so people could roll like these really cheap things and get really good stats on them to put on like high-end gear. And this gear became known as like Dwarpit gear because you couldn't get it anymore. Like, that was the only time that they did it, and that gear was like ridiculously expensive.
That's something I hope that comes. I know that you all said Korean MMOs do it a lot, but I hope it's something that becomes more westernized, and that items have a high appeal to what their status symbol is. I know that was something that I really liked in League of Legends for the longest time, and I know it's not an MMO and it's not any kind of
like
form of
the
RPG.
skins?
Yeah, the skins were
Yeah.
held at a very high regard, and then they made it to where you have a chance to get them from, capsules or
Oh, dude,
anything
I-
like that. It
I have so
completely
many
ruined.
legacy skins because of
Yeah.
these capsules now.
Yeah, it ruined it for me. I don't even buy skins anymore.
I had so many like rare skins like that. Like, I had the Sivir one. I
Yeah.
had the Twitch one.
Yep, and now you can just get them.
One.
Yeah, you can just get them
Yeah.
now.
I was like, what the hell? That just like ruins
The only
appeal
skin.
to them.
The only skins I don't think you can get are the original ones that came in the box, the CD back when the game first released. I don't think you can get Black Alistar or Silver Kale or anything like that. I think those are the only ones you can't get that are still held in a high regard.
Well, you
But-
can't get the original championship ribbon either. Like, you can get
No.
the newer one, but
Yeah.
you can't get the original one.
Well,
Yeah.
they did that to the Sivir too, but it's like, okay, well, they can just be a yellow Sivir. Like, it's
Yeah,
still like the same skin.
There are like 4 skins that still have a little bit of a high regard, but it really killed it for me, and it made me not want to get skins anymore. I know that's still going to be a thing. People are still going to love it. I personally will not buy another skin, but it's still
Yeah.
very popular.
That really bummed me out when they did that.
So this is you were talking about games having stuff like that and stuff that you could collect like as status symbols. Now, I can't comment on like how this is going to be, but now that's one of the promises that's been made for like Ashes of Creation.
I do know that. I do know that's one of the promises. I know that Ashes of Creation has a lot to live up to from what they have promised the
Dude,
fans.
I'm rooting for that game.
I'm rooting for it 100%. You developers, if you ever hear this, just know that we are rooting for you and cheering on, and can't wait to see what you produce.
I'm
Um,
a huge like collector of rare shit in games, especially in WoW.
Yes, yes.
Like, I just go after everything.
I have a very fond memory that I recently got from WoW when I played before the new expansion came out, when Battle for Azeroth was still at its final
Did
end
you
of the
get,
game.
like, the camel or something?
I got the gray camel, which there are people to this day still farming, believe it or not, and that's from the Cataclysm expansion,
I
which
have
is like
that now.
4 or 5 expansions back at this point. People are still farming it to this day, and I got that mount. And I'm telling you right now, that feeling whenever you get something that there are so many people going after, when you're the one that gets it, that feeling cannot be replaced.
Oh, dude, I can't even tell you, like, the tingles that I had and, like, the thickness of my cock when ashes dropped.
Oh, dude, I
You
hate
farmed that
I
for
hate you
years.
so
No, he
bad.
farmed that for years. He earned that
I
shit.
literally farmed it for years.
I
Yeah.
farmed it from Lich King to Pandaria.
I
He's-
had a
never got
fucking
it.
seizure in my chair.
Yeah. Like, that experience is something that you cannot replace.
The endorphins, they
Yeah.
were firing.
Like, I've gotten very many things. I can tell you that I would absolutely love to get the Time Lost Proto Drake. It is, like, I would go back to WoW just to farm it, just to sit there for
The
hours
thing
upon
about
end on
that-
farming it.
Is you have to have a fucking team. Of
You have
people
to. You have
actually
to.
get it.
Yeah.
But you only get one. when
Yeah.
you kill it.
Yep. The fact of that, and the fact of if you get that as a solo player, you are a god. I'll tell you that you're a god.
Wait,
Go out
is
there
that
and get
just
it.
the rare one that
That's-
flies around?
Yeah. People
Yeah, I
camp
watched
this.
Asmin kill like 3 of those on stream on dead servers.
Yeah, you have to go to a dead server.
You have to go to the dead server, and you almost
Yeah.
have to have a team of people to do it.
Even
But
on
I-
dead servers, people they're
I'm
still
sure-
popular.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm sure after Asmin showed that off, like, it's probably
You
a
can
common
go out there,
strategy
and
now.
there's guaranteed to be at least one person standing out there.
Shit. I mean, I play on a fairly populated server. Bleeding Hollow is what I played on, and I can tell you from experience, when you go out there, there's at least 50 people at any time of the day. It doesn't matter when you go. It doesn't matter what you do. There's at least 50 people at each spawn
Even when
point.
I played, I was playing on a low pop server, and there was still that many people back then, but it was kind of newer back then. But still, I mean, it was a low pop server.
The thing about collection stuff is people love it. I can tell you from experience, the older you are, the more you love collecting things. It's not really, I don't think it's so much as a young man's game as like maybe a older man's game. You don't have to be completely old, but especially our generation love collecting things.
Dude, everybody loves a rare item. You know, the best feeling in the world is getting a stupid-looking hat that's like super rare, and you get the PvP in it.
Yes.
Yeah, and then like make a video about it too, because just for.
And I don't think WoW is not as big on that anymore. Stuff and items is not as rare anymore from the newer expansions. It's more of the old expansions.
Even then, like a lot of the stuff, like I remember one of my friends had the insane title. Like I know now it's a lot easier to get, but he had this back in like whenever like it was first came out, and like he could just walk around with that title, and it was like, oh hey, that guy over there, he's a badass. You know, like stuff like that's
But
really
people
cool.
with like the warglaives and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got, like, your dick feels huge when you have like warglaives or thunder fury.
Yep. I can. The only thing that I don't think I could ever get, and it seems like it's just kind of like a roll for, is the Big Love Rocket. That's the only thing that I don't think I'd ever see.
That's just logging on when Valentine's is up and praying.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's pure RNG, and it's so low that if you get it, it's great. Like I know a few people that's gotten it.
The feel of it though, like it's so hard to get, but when you get it, damn, it feels good.
Yeah, and that's something I hope that games moving forward are able to produce. That's
It's really hard for a newer game to do that though.
because it doesn't have the
Because-
foundation. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not just that, but like, say they did add something like that, and then one person gets it, like, most of the time they won't do it with mounts, right? Like they do it with like weapons. and
Yeah.
stuff. And like even in WoW, like if you get those weapons at the time, you're OP, and then it creates balance issues.
I agree.
And then it's like they'll either up the drop rate or they'll nerf it. And then even
But at
like,
the same time, I think if you have those items, you have a right to be OP and feel OP.
I agree.
That
If
makes
you've
the
worked it.
items just like way more cooler and badass.
Yep.
yeah, I mean I agree too, but it's not something that
But in
casual
competitive
gamers
play,
like.
I don't think it's fair. Like I think things like that should be banned or barred from like competitive play. So,
Oh, I
like
mean,
ranked PvP, I
yeah.
don't think it should be a thing because that's not fair.
Well, see, like one thing that I think about like PvP, and the only game I know that's done this well is like I think PvP gear should just be equalized, and the only game, like I said, that's done it has been Guild Wars 2. Like you've got
Or
to
old
just,
World of Warcraft, like when the tokens were a thing.
yeah, but even then, right? Like you still have to farm for that gear. Like Guild
Yeah.
Wars 2, you can just hop into you can create a character and it's instantly ready to PvP. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't take it in the rest of the world or into World v World, but you could do the PvP mode.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, you can just jump straight into PvP, making a level 1.
Yeah, you could do that in Guild Wars 1 too. Like that is so cool to me, and it's like it helps people. Like it honestly lets people get way better at PvP because they can play all the classes and then they know what every class does. And and you could just experiment. Like, I think stuff like that for PvP is super cool. Obviously not PvE, right? Because if you just gave everybody super good PvE gear, then
Yeah, it just kills the point.
Yeah, it just ruins it.
But like PvP is never like a gear measuring contest like PvE or PvE is, or who can smash their head into the wall for the longest time.
I think in like the non-serious like PvP game modes like WoW has, it'd be okay for things like legendaries or whatever, but not for like ranked or anything.
Even I don't know, dude. I think like Guild Wars 2 is the game that really got me into PvP and MMOs. Before that, I was always like, no, this seems stupid.
Yeah, I remember you being like really heavy into it.
Yeah, it like I was pretty good at it too. Like I wasn't, like a professional level, but like my MMR was high enough that I was playing with the professionals every now and then. And it was like just the fact that you could do that, it's just so cool. Like I've never played another game that's had like that same experience where you could just hop in and play. Like even now, like not playing for this long, if I wanted to play, I could just log in and boom, play PvP. If my build's outdated, it doesn't matter. I can just put in a new build because it's free.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what MMOs are able to bring, like New World and Ashes of Creation, what they're able to bring to the table to present to players and see how we can maybe move forward with the MMO genre, because I think it's gotten a little stale, and I don't think it's so much as a dying breed. I think it just needs a little bit of a revival. So that's how I feel about it. What do you guys think?
I think as soon as somebody figures out how the geniuses at Pearl Abyss made that BDO combat, we're going to see the next big MMO.
That's what I want. I want something that's like Arcage's type of world where the players run everything with combat that's like updated.
Yeah,
So something that's like even better than BDO.
Yeah, it pretty much. I was about to say what you want is like a better version of BDO, because BDO is just like a scuffed Arcade with way better combat.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. I definitely would like to see more of a Arcade style game. I was very in a different mindset whenever I first played Arcade. I think at the mindset am now, if Arcade had never released and it came out today, I would be more apt to play it and dive into it further. And I'm just hoping that something comes along that's fresh, that's more along that lines. And
people would still be playing that game if they didn't kill it.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
Like I loved that game. Another thing, like about the being able just to hop in PvP and like Guild Wars. Another thing that's really cool about that is you can always play with your friends. Like this is one thing, right? Because like I'm a NEET and all I do is play games, but like it's really hard for me to find an MMO that I can play with like you guys. Like this is no offense to you guys at all, because you guys have lives and responsibilities and things, but it's hard for me to find a game where I just don't like completely just run off and leave my friends when I play it. And I think
I'm pretty bad for it too, because I'll go off and start doing my own thing and I won't play with anyone.
yeah, that's how I am. Or I'll have to make like a second, sometimes a third character because I leave them on my second character too.
Josh knows this pretty well. He tried to get me to PvP like all the time, but I was just like constantly off doing like other shit because I'm like a hyper farmer in WoW now.
yeah. I mean, that's where you kind of have to find the balance. Everybody has their own thing. That's what's beautiful about MMOs. Everybody has their own thing they like doing, and that's what a game is going to have to capture. It's going to have to be able to appeal to a massive amount of spectrums. You have the casuals that just want to, maybe they're gold farmers. They like having a lot of money. They like being able to play the market. They like being able to control things. You have people that are PvP elitists. They want to grind out PvP. They want to learn all their rotations. They want to be able to learn all the animation cancels. They want to learn all that. You have people that love PvE. They like grinding hard content. They like being in a progressive guild or a group that pushes it to the limit, that is always the first people to take something down. They want that trophy. Then you have the casuals that just log in 30 minutes to an hour, just like you said, a day, and they just want to play the game and experience it at their own pace. That's what's the beauty of MMOs, and it's hard for newer MMOs to capture that at the base of their game. So, again, we're just going to have to see how it plays out, but let's just hope that some of these new ones are able to meet that task.
And another thing, like, about World of Warcraft and why I think, like, they do that so well, at least, like, I don't know if they do it now, but how they used to do, they would have RP servers, they had PvP servers, they had normal servers where you don't PvP in the open world. And, like, just being able to have, like, that many servers for, like, that big of a player base, I know that's, like, unrealistic for a new game, but you could still have, like, you know, you could have, like, one server that's open world PvP all the time. Then, like, one server that's, no, you can't do that. Because, like, PvE players and PvP players, while they both, like the same games a lot of the time, they do not like playing with each other. Like, PvE players turn out and they think, oh, this guy's just ganking me because he's an asshole. And on the other end, the PvP player's like, man, I just killed this scrub. Like, I wanted to fight somebody that was actually worth fighting.
Dude, if I have to pick between like PvE or PvP server, I always go PvP. Because I just like that, I don't know, like at any moment, there could just be an epic fight.
Yeah, and there's not many games that do that well anymore. Like, BDO is like the only real open world PvP game that's left, and it doesn't even do it to an extent because you're punished for killing people. Like, there's one server you can go where you don't get punished for killing people, but like, unless you're like a top like 1% player, you don't want to be on that server.
And WoW, I mean, you can't even really go into PvP mode anymore because all the people that's there are just running in like big groups. And most of the time, it's just barren, and there's just, like, nobody around to, like, engage.
Yeah. See, Zergfests can be fun, too, at times, but, like, what I really like...
Definitely not.
What I really like about BDO is, like, how, like, GVGs happen, right? Guild versus guild. It's not a game mode. It's, like, you declare war on this other guild, and it's all open world, but how it usually happens is somebody will be grinding a grind spot, and somebody else will come over there and be like, no, this is my grind spot. And then they start fighting, and like I said, once you kill somebody so many times, you start to get punished, and then if you die, like, your gear could downgrade, or like stuff like that. So they declare war, and then just people from both guilds show up, and it just turns into chaos, like 30v30 in like a grind spot that's as big as any battleground in World of Warcraft. So you're like fighting other people, and you're like, there's mobs around that could literally kill you at the same time. And I don't know, it's a really good experience.
That's something I liked about like old World of Warcraft, where you could just be leveling and some guy kills you, and then you come and kill him, and then he gets 2 friends, and then you go and get 2 friends, and then it just gets turned into pure chaos, and all of a sudden it's like 2 guilds or 3.
Yeah, I still think you'd really like BDO if it wasn't for the controls.
I would like BDO if there was like more things to do other than PvP.
Oh, I mean, dude, you can gamble, you can control the market, like the life scaling system and professions, and that is so in depth. It's crazy.
I mean, that's pretty much what I would do on WoW anymore. So
I say that, but all I do is chop trees and sell it and then gamble money. And make bank. But like, it's super in depth. Like, I got really into it for a while. Like, all of my life skills are like, well, they were high, now they're kind of low because they've made everything easier. Because, you know, as time goes on, you got to add in catch-up mechanics, especially in Korean MMO.
I can agree with that. The main takeaway from it is, are MMOs a dying breed? I don't think they are. I think you're always going to see MMOs coming. Do I think you're going to see one that blows up as hard as WoW? That remains to be seen. WoW's been around for so long that it would take an unprecedented game to be able to even conceive.
Sword Art Online.
I mean, yeah, VR would have to be your ultimate bet. Something as a simulation that you could jump into. I think that would be the next step in creating a massive world that people play for decades to come. that's probably a long ways from now. But it remains to be seen. That is that's going to be the biggest step forward, is when virtual reality gaming takes its next step in its growth and its maturity. Right now, I would say it's in its infant phase, closing into its toddler phase. Once it gets to its adult phase, though, I think it's just going to be a monster, and you're going to see regular gaming take a huge swan dive. But
I mean, it's pretty cool right now.
yeah, like I said, it's really cool because it's new and it's fresh, and as they continue to grow with it, they come up with new mechanics, new ideas, and I enjoy it myself. I have a VR headset and I love it. So I think it's going in a good direction. But I think that's all the time we have for today. I want to keep it fresh. I want to keep it at a good pace for our podcast moving forward. So I don't want to touch on too many topics. We have a lot coming and a lot more to roll with. So it's going to be more for another time when we're able to sit around the bonfire and talk. But thank you all so much that's enjoyed it. Do you guys have any send-offs or anything like that?
Yeah. Fuck AMD, fuck Nvidia, and yeah, that's all I want to say.
Yeah, fuck them.
But thank you all so much for joining us around the bonfire this week. Hoping to make this a weekly thing to where I can give a new video each week and bring more content to it. There will be more guests that come on to the show that join us around the bonfire and our shenanigans and our old talks. But if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell so you can keep up with the notifications of the podcast. Thank you all so much for coming out. We'll see you next time.